Welcome to this video to walk you through rolling over your data for the next model year. Using the Planning for Profit software actually makes it really easy to prepare your model for next year. You've already done the majority of the work. And so rolling the data over for next year simply takes all of your data for this year and prepares it for use next year. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through first on a couple of slides how it's done, and then I'm actually going to go to the software itself and walk you through an example of rolling over the data and what are some of the things that you should look for as you're getting it ready for the next model year. So to start out with, what we're going to do is we're going to go into, on the menu, we're going to go in under Setup and then Company Models. And that will display all of the models of your company itself that you're going to have. Again, the lines don't show up real good on here, but actually under the active column, the green dot is going to show you which model is your active model. Once you're in there, then what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to click on the three dots on the bar. Right, so that model that we're looking at is a standard business model. Now again, if this is the first year you've been using the software, you only have 1 year here. In my example, I've been using the software for several years in here, and so as a result, I have each of those years in place. You're clicking on the three dots, the action dots for the model itself, the standard business model, not the individual year. And when you do that, you'll see that the menu will pop up, and one of the options that you have is activate the next model year. You'll simply choose that, and as soon as you do that, it's going to give you a pop-up and say, are you sure you want to do this? Do you want to roll, in my case, 2022 over to 2023? You simply say yes. What the software will do is we'll make a complete copy of last year's, but it will start to adjust a couple of things for 2023. Now, once it's done, you will then see 2023 pop up on your list. You can then put the green dot under the active column to make that your current model. And as soon as you do so, again, right up here, the second line, right underneath your company name, will now show the year for that particular year that you just created. Now, what we're going to do at that point is once we've got the model created, there's a couple of adjustments that you're going to want to double check. And really, for the most part, it's going through the cost input settings. Specifically, the areas that you want to look at are going to be the equipment date ranges, wages for your team members, and overhead costs. So let's actually jump right into the software itself and take a look at what this would look like as we go through it. So I'm logged into my account. We can see Mr. Magoo's Heating and Cooling up here. We've got the standard business model for 2022. That's the year that we're looking at. And we're going to roll that over to, in my case, 2023. Now, you notice that my menu is just kind of smaller than what you see many times. Again, with that menu, if that's taking up real estate on your screen and you want to get rid of it, right? What you typically are seeing is this menu right there, right? And your software shows up in this portion of the panel. If that's taking up too much room, all you need to do is click on that little target, that circle up at the top, and that will immediately, you notice the screen got a little bit bigger, and every time I navigate off of that menu, it then shrinks down to the side itself. So I'm just doing that to give us a little bit more real estate on the screen, make it a little bit easier for you to see behind me. So I'm simply going to go into Setup, and under Setup, we're going to go into Company Models. So when we choose that, again, I can see my standard business model here with my various years that I've had. We've got over on this corner in the active column, I can currently see 2022 is my active model. That's what we're seeing up on the second line up here on the year itself. So remember, you actually click on the three dots here under the Actions column for the model itself, standard business model, not the year that you're looking to roll over. All right, so I'm going to click right here on the Action buttons, and as I do that, we'll get the pop-up that comes up, and I'm going to click on Activate Next Model Year. When I do that, here's my pop-up. Are you sure you want to do this? Do you want to roll 2022 into 2023? Yes, I do. It will go ahead and actually do that rollover, make the complete copy, and then tell me it's been rolled. It'll confirm it for me. And now I can see we've got 2023 listed on my individual department list. The next thing I need to do is actually take and put the green dot in the active column for 2023. And as soon as I do that, I can then see right up there at the top, it's now rolled over. I'm looking at 2023. So all the information that I put in is now rolled over into this new year. It's not going to impact the previous years. So now the couple of items that we need to do is we're going to simply go into costs input, and we're going to verify a few of those items. First, we're going to start right at the top of the list and kind of really jump down the list itself and hit the important items. So the first one is the equipment list itself. All right, so those are listed, and one of the things you'll look at here is the cost spread over column. The thing to be looking at is you'll notice that this particular piece of equipment, this Sprinter van that was entered, right, was, we said when we entered it back in 2018 that we were going to put money aside for 5 years, so 2018 through 2022. Right? Well, if we've actually been putting money aside, well, then we should have enough money at this point put aside that when it comes time to actually replace this Sprinter van, if that's now, then quite frankly, we should have the money for it. I don't need to continue adding and putting money aside in 2023. Right? So at that point, I would actually want to take that van off of the list. Now, this selected column that you've got over here, you can leave the van on the list, so you're still keeping track of it. But simply come here and just choose that selected column. And when you do that, it's going to ask, again, are you sure you want to deselect this? I'm going to say yes. And once you do that, it's going to go ahead and deselect it, pull it off of my list. And at that point, you'll notice it's no longer putting money aside for that particular piece of equipment. That in itself is going to lower my break-even rate and either increase my profit or lower what I have to charge per hour if we're looking for a fixed net profit. So I can do that with each individual piece of equipment. If, for example, let's say it was on the list from 2018 through 2022, but we hadn't been putting any money aside. We should have been, but we weren't. Right? Well, then we need to, what I would do at that point is I don't want to go back in and edit this piece of equipment. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is select it to turn it back on. So we're going to go ahead and select it. When I do that, it's going to ask me, okay, how did you want to allocate this to department? Where is this vehicle spending its time? It's just confirming that information. So this one was 100% service. I'll accept it, puts it back on the list. Now what I want to do is actually hit the actions button and edit this item, right? So we're saying that we have not been putting money aside for this piece of equipment, and we need to. So I'm going to simply click on the three dots here in the actions column. I'm going to edit it. And now I'm going to do a couple of different things. Number one, it was year to start 2018. Well, we didn't do that. We're starting right now in 2023. So I'm going to change this to 2023. How many more years now? So we're just going to edit this data, right? And so I'm saying, okay, I'm going to squeeze 2 more years out of this thing, and that's really all I can do. And again, you then just verify that our allocations are correct over on this side. And once we've confirmed that, then we can go ahead and accept that particular piece of equipment. It'll add it back to, just revise the information on the list. And now we went from putting $4,000 a year aside over to putting $10,000 a year aside because we no longer have all those years left to work with anymore. All right, so that will ultimately increase our break-even rate and increase what we need to charge per hour to cover our cost of operation. Time is your friend. You want to be putting monies aside to build that equipment replacement fund all the way through the life of that vehicle. Don't wait until just the very end to start making that happen. So I would do that with each one of the vehicles. Double check, are these items on the list correct? Right? If there's a vehicle on the list that you no longer have or you've gotten rid of it, then get rid of it. Right? If I want to take it off the list, all I need to do is again come back over here, hit the 3 dots, and I want to delete that item. And I can take that piece of equipment off of the list itself. Next item that I would do is if there's trucks that you have today that are not on this list, get them on there, add it, and start building that into your pricing itself. So make sure this list is correct and current and complete. From there, I'm going to go down to labor. Now in the labor section, really what I'm looking at are 2 items. Right? The first one is going to be, again, number one, are the people that we have on this list still current? Or have they changed at all? If some of these individuals are no longer in the company, we need to get them off the list. If there's other people who you've added, we need to get them on the list. So go ahead and make those changes. But even for those who are already on the list, have you given a pay increase? Or are you planning to give a pay increase? If you're planning to give a pay increase, the time to build that into your pricing is well before you actually hand it out to the employees. You need to be able to actually get some of that money coming in before you can start paying it out. And so maybe at this point here, Wendy, again, she hired on, right? So if I go in and basically click on the three dots and edit Wendy's record, at that point, I can see here as I scroll down and look at her record, she was basically 98% billable, 2% non-billable, and she was kind of spread as across all departments here in the field, right? So she was really working as a helper. Well, Wendy has come a long way. Wendy is now a lead install tech, and we've actually, bumped her up to $20 an hour. And at that point, she's not working in service at all anymore, and she is now 50% install, 50% replacement. And because of that change that we had, right, I'm going to come back in here and just revisit the hours. And as I look at the input hours, well, she definitely has some lost time now. About 30% of her time is lost. Right? And so at that point, we're simply going to put in about 500 lost hours is what we have. At this point, she also has 2 weeks of vacation, so I'm going to put those and edit those records in here as well to make sure that they are all current. Now, one of the other things that as we rolled from 2022 over to 2023 that happened is, if you remember here in the hours themselves, we're telling you which months have 4 weeks and which months have 5 weeks. Well, it rolled those over and recalculated the 4-week months versus 5-week months for you automatically in this new version of software. So now, once that's done, we simply click on accept. We can now see that she is now 70% billable, 30% non-billable, and we'll go ahead and accept her record, and we're good to go. All right, so Wendy has now been updated in the system itself. Go through and just double check the others. Do I need to increase or change any of the wages on any of the employees who are in here, and make sure that they're all accurate. From there, just peek at your materials. And again, are the materials that you have entered still accurate, or did your material purchases go up or go down? If you moved or changed people, if your sales went up, odds are these numbers changed on you a little bit as well. The other thing is, if you are coming over from the old software, one of the things that I encourage you to take a look at is, and I'm just going to edit this record real quick, is again, remember, in the new Planning for Profit software, we have the ability on materials to use either markup or margin. Whereas on the old software, all you could deal with was markup. If you've changed your pricing strategy within your company, well, then you're going to want to also come and update this information here. So maybe we've gone from 100% markup, which is really a 50% margin. We've now changed over to a margin, and we're actually using 60%. Right? Update those numbers in the software and make sure that they stay accurate. So once we've got those in and updated, check each of them on the list. Again, you can always check. Here's right here is your total purchases, what you paid for the equipment, and next to that is what you're going to be selling it for. When that's done, simply keep walking down the list. What's my fixed overhead expenses? And again, I can look at each one of these items, and you don't have to go in and update every single one of them. Some of them haven't changed. But if you do have some of them that are there, right? So maybe business gifts, we're still averaging $100 a month on those. Charitable donations, still $100 a month, right? But our advertising has gone up. Well, we're spending a whole lot more than that now, and so I'm going to go in and edit that one item. Again, I can simply go into the software itself, hit the three dots, edit that item, and I can make a change on the actual software itself. So is it monthly? If I want to change the monthly amount, I simply come in right down here, and maybe at this point we're now spending $500 a month or whatever that number is. Go ahead and make the change, do the update, get those numbers correct. Do the same thing with your variable overhead. If you have changes to subcontractors or other income, you can do that there as well. And once those are updated, your model is ready to go. In most cases, you can get your model updated for the next year in really a matter of 30, 40 minutes in some cases, depending on how many changes you have or how many entries you've got in the software itself. So once that's done, you're ready to go. Again, if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to us here at Grandy & Associates. We'd be glad to help.